there. I'm a little bit sick, so this might be a bit of a shorter video than maybe it otherwise would be. But we have a new post from Johan on the Paradox forums, and thought we'd have a read through it because it's addressing some of the it's just a direct addressing of a lot of the community sentiment that's going around right now, which has been somewhat negative. And I know I have not been 100% positive. I also haven't been 100% negative. I feel like I've just been my normal, honest self. But the community sentiment, I feel, has been a little bit more negative than maybe is warranted. I don't know if that's fine for me to say. Either way, Johan's made a post, and let's read through the post. Reading through the feedback in various ways and identified the following major complaints. We're not talking about the AI needs to do better or the UI could use quality of life features here. So, first of all, AI aggressiveness. This is a big one, and we've seen a lot of comments both for and against it, right? I have seen people saying that the AI being so aggressive is actually really nice, it gives them a bit of a challenge. I've seen people say the AI aggressiveness is far too heavy, that it's leading to just mindless blobbing rather than directional blobbing. So, yeah, let's see what he has to say. A lot of the AI work in the last weeks before launch and the weeks after was to make it more aggressive, as some of the biggest complaints pre-release was that the AI does not do anything, it does not expand. I think the time lapse from Wonder Productions did quite some damage in that regard. Obviously not his fault, but certainly the sentiment really went quite negative after he shared his time lapse. For 1010, there's a part of the community that thinks it's gone too far, particularly with two aspects: France and Bohemia. No, the AI is doing too many no CB wars, and the HRE before the Papal Bull is basically free real estate. So for 1.1, which is I believe coming in January, they're going to be adding an AI aggressiveness game rule where they'll have at least 3 settings. A rule with the AI never doing no CB wars, to a less aggressive version of now, and then finally a setting for even more aggressiveness than 1010. I feel like there needs to be a 4th option, which is as it is right now, right? Because we've got more aggression, less aggression, and never no CB. Where is the aggression of right now is fine? Maybe a less aggressive version of now is kind of going to be like the default, I assume. But yeah, a rule for the AI not using no CB wars in the HRE is something they're considering as well. Honestly, I thought this was always going to be the case. Like, before release, maybe when we were first being told about the HRE, I thought it was going to be the case that you cannot do no CB wars in the HRE, which is going to massively slow down expansion of the HRE, make it, so it looks as disgusting, midway through the game as it does at the very start of the game. I thought that was always going to be the case. That was always going, the standard. And that is the case after the Papal Bull. But maybe this is just going to be the case as standard pre-Golden Bull, not Papal Bull, Golden Bull. Maybe that's what this is, and if so, yeah, I think that's definitely something that I would enable. Having the no CBs being banned in the HRE just permanently, Golden Bull or not, sounds like a really good idea in my opinion. But yeah, okay, and then making no CB wars a bit more costly in general. As long as the AI understands that cost, because we've seen it a few times that if the AI thinks it can get away with it, if they're just overwhelmingly more powerful, they're going to be fine with declaring no CB wars that bring them to minus 30 stability. I've seen that. I don't think the AI should be doing any no CB wars if it brings them into negative stability numbers. It should always aim to stay in the positive at all times, in my personal opinion. And maybe, I feel like maybe they have that in them, but I've definitely seen the AI in a no CB war at minus 30, 38 stability. So something may have been happening, because I do know that when I'm declaring my own wars, sometimes it's not telling me that I'm going to take a stab hit, but then I do take a stab hit. Maybe something like that's happening to the AI. I don't know. But either way, these obviously game rules are great. We are all vibing with game rules. I'm happy to see that. The AI subject assimilation bug, something they're looking into fixing, very likely to be possible to go into a 1.0.11 or so in mid-January. What this is, I believe, is the cultural assimilation. I don't think this is like, you know, what's the word called when you get your subjects and you annex them? The diplo annexation. Look, I told you I'm sick. My brain is not working at full capacity right now. I think this is cultural assimilation. Because right now, when you say, let's say you play as Sweden, and you say to Scania, I want you to be Swedish rather than Danish culture, they don't assimilate the Danes in Scania into Swedish, and then they eventually just turn back into Danish culture because obviously they've got 95 or what have you percent Danish in their country. And obviously that's not something you want, right? If you have said you will now be Swedish and I'm going to enforce Swedish in your country, you're taking a huge loyalty hit for that. And I think the subjects should be forced to stay with that. I think that is the bug that they're talking about. If so, then it'd be nice to see that fixed, of course. Another big one, levies, mercenaries, regulars. We need to see what the balance we're going to have is. Reducing the ability of the levies while also making the recovery functional has made the game less fun for a lot of people in the first 100 years in particular. We're not happy with levies being this bad. Good. I'm glad that this is not the aim, of course. Nor are we happy with the fact that mercenaries are something you hardly ever use. This is purely to do with the fact that they're too goddamn expensive. They are ridiculously expensive, and then when you purchase them, you're spending like 1,000 ducats on an army of like 1,000 men, and while these men are really good compared to levies, except the fact that you want levies to not be as bad as they are, but they're still going to be, 10,000 levies have just been raised up, and now I've spent 1,000 ducats on 1,000 regulars, mercenary regulars, then they just get crushed by the 10,000 levies that are functionally free. Even if those 10,000 levies are bad and they're going to get better, mercenaries need to be cheaper. They just really do. They're not where they need to be. Yeah, I wouldn't be happy with this either, because mercenaries should be like the primary way to fight. For a lot of places, especially like the Italian wars, like 90% of the troops in the Italian wars were mercenaries. So yeah, the fact that you just never use them is obviously a bad thing. So what they're looking for at 1.1 is to severely reduce the cost of hiring mercenaries. Good. So a valid choice to bolster your armies. How severe is severely? Because I'm thinking like 80% reduction. Like if I'm spending 1,000 ducats on 1,000 men, I'd be more tempted by 200 ducats for 1,000 men. That seems reasonable. So yeah. And then they're also going to, once again, rebalance levies versus regulars. I mean, this is going to be a constant balancing act, I think, probably as long as this game is going to be out. There's never going to be a single point where, like, boom, we have nailed it. It's there. That's the deal. This is where we're going. Like, I don't think that's ever going to happen. But they want to reduce the power difference between them further. That's fair. When they're satisfied with the new balance, they'll do an in-depth explanation of how it will work. Looking forward to that. Noble's marrying problem. The removal of being able to marry anyone you wanted to anyone else you wanted is a complaint raised by quite a few in the community, as in many cases you ran out of characters. Yeah. Quite frequently, actually. The design is that the game should maintain around one non-royal dynasty per cabinet position and make sure that every one of those dynasties have at least 2 unmarried males alive at any time. This should create on average 4 to 5 adult males per dynasty on average, which together with making sure the royal house is huge, should provide lots and lots of characters. However, there are not enough females, nor are enough produced to support this design, as whenever a character is generated, you end up with... I'm just going to click... look, this was posted 19 minutes ago. I'm going to click refresh just in case he has Nope. Just in case you end up with something. All right. My thoughts on this. I have come into the problem where I can't even marry people of my dynasty. I feel like potentially the issue there is that it's being restricted to me being able to marry off people of my immediate family, but I think it should be anyone in my dynasty. I am the head of the dynasty. I'm going to be the one controlling the marriages of my dynasty. That is probably going to be okay for me. I will say, while I appreciate that they have also made the cost of hiring random courtier to the random courtier, click button, it used to be ridiculously expensive, and now it is legitimacy. Appreciate that they made that change. It's not great though. Like, I don't want to spend legitimacy when cost of court is so insane. The point of I guess the meta, the way to play if you're playing absolutely optimally, is to crank up the cost of court slider to the maximum so that you can more quickly hit 100 legitimacy, Republican tradition, whatever your equivalent is, and then the cost of your cost of court goes back dramatically because you're only needing to hit that equilibrium point and keep it at that equilibrium point. Then if I'm hiring a character, my cost of court instantly goes crazy high again because I need to try and get myself back up to 100. And sure, maybe the design intent is not to keep me at 100 permanently. Maybe that's the design intent, and that's fair enough. However, I would argue that is still the best way to play. And functionally, if I'm going for that optimal way to play, I am never going to click a button that drops me down 15 legitimacy just to hire a character who might end up being complete dog ass. My suggestion would be, and I'm fine with generals costing armor tradition, admirals costing navy tradition. Those ones are fine; they can stay as they are. The advisor needs to go back to gold, and it needs to not be a ridiculous amount of gold. It used to be absolutely insane. Now it needs to not be quite insane. If I was to suggest a number, maybe it could be the same cost as it is to put a character in a cabinet position or to promote a character to head of cabinet, which is like, if I'm average country midway through the game, like 100 ducats, right? If I'm spending 100 ducats on creating a character, yeah, sure. The ability to just spam 100 ducats again and again and again until you get someone that is absolutely perfect, that's obviously bad. But you just need to give a cooldown to that button, spend 100 ducats, I get a character, I can't do it again for 5 years, so I'm not going to be able to spam to get the best character. It just seems pretty reasonable to me. I don't know. That would also alleviate the I've run out of characters problem quite a lot. Like, really quite nicely. If I can just create a character every 5 years. I mean, I don't know anyone who would be unhappy with that. Rivers map mode. Yeah, okay. It was not obvious to us how many were using this semi-broken debug map mode, but they've now been working on making a new non-debug map mode for Rivers for 1.1. Annoyingly, the mod that I was using, the improved road builder mod, that brought me back my Rivers map mode and also improved the roads map mode significantly to also include the rivers and the direction and the actual lines between the locations instead of just big blob of brown, got nuked by whatever update came recently, and so that was very sad, especially considering it was a achievement compatible mod. So yeah, I'm glad that they're going to bring this back. Honestly, just the mod, improved road builders mod, take it, put it in the game. That's all you need to do. Honestly, that mod is perfect. That's exactly what you need. Anyway. Rival mechanics. The rival mechanics in EU5 is basically EU4 without the power projection benefits. It's not something that anyone is happy with. They have a new design that is partially implemented now and be ready for 1.1, where they've removed the prestige hit for not having rivals. Good. Eased up restrictions on who you can put as a rival dramatically. Also amazing. The Romans, the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantines, if you so desire, can't rival the Ottomans at the start of the game. Bro owns my cores. Bro rivals me, but I can't rival him in return. Wild. Actually, just physically wild. And I think it's because, obviously, Eastern Roman Empire is Empire tier, Ottomans is County tier or Duchy tier, and you can't do, like, 2 jumps. An Empire can only rival kingships and above. That's probably what's happening here. Either way, it's a little bit silly. So loosening those is obviously a really, really good idea. Ease up restrictions there. However, we have a new calculation that identifies if another country is a threat to you, and for every rival you have that is a threat to you, you'll gain a bonus that is currently giving you prestige and Diplo reputation. So rivaling your threats, that's actually not a bad idea. We'll see how that goes. Depends on what the bonus, like how much prestige am I getting from this? How much Diplo rep am I getting from this? But yeah, interested, because I do find it quite difficult to get any decent amount of prestige. Honestly, getting the achievement for having 100 prestige was an absolute nightmare. Ended up having to do wars and hold them, and then humiliating like 5, 6, 7, 8 countries in a row just to get myself to 100 prestige. It was actually just very irritating. So yeah, this seems nice. They've also added a new CB that you can manufacture on anyone that has set you as a rival. Oh, I like that. It gives a superiority war goal, and they're also looking into adding a new CB that can be used on any rival that is a threat, which makes it cheaper to conquer things than the humiliate rival CB does. Okay, alright. On to slavery. The problem with slavery... I think there's a lot of problems with slavery. I am woke. No, there's a problem with slavery in the game is that they don't have an intra-market slave distribution system. So unless you can ship slaves back and forth between your market and another, you'll not be able to fill buildings or RGOs that need slaves unless you get a constant flow of new slaves to the market. Why are we missing words again? For 1.1, they're looking into a slave migration system where surplus slaves will move around inside markets if the laws allow it. Okay, perfect. That's fine. Naval pain points. Yeah. Naval combat is not in a state that anyone is 100% happy with right now. The 1.04 stack wiping was removed for the 1.0.10 beta in favor of ticking damage on fleeing ships and a high capture chance at what was going to be stack wipes, and it did not work out great. The ships only fled a single location almost all the time, and yeah, you ended up having battle after battle after battle after battle, one location next to the location next to location next to location. Good. You're having 1,000 pop-ups telling you of the battles that you've definitely killed so many ships, but none of them actually die, and you actually just have to wait until you've captured all of your enemy ships. It was atrocious. It really was bad. So yeah, definitely glad to see that is somewhat gone, but I've seen people complaining that it's kind of still pretty naff. In 1.0.10, I haven't played any naval nations yet, so I do. But anyway, for 1.1, they'll move back to that design more, but also make probabilities of critical hits, sinking damage ships higher, and if it was going to be a stack wipe, what would be left of the fleet would make a shattered retreat. The goal here is to make naval engagements more decisive. Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, the system in EU4 was like kind of trash, but still better than anything we've had from EU5 so far, navally. If they can be better than EU4, then they got my vote. I'm going to wait and see what this is like. Also, complaints about navies moving too quickly. I'm not going to lie. We have been complaining about this. And by we, I mean there was a whole thread in the Discord that the content creators and the Paradox Tinto staff shared during early access. There was a whole thread on movement speeds. The movement speed of navies was absolutely ridiculous. Much faster than you've ever seen it, for example. I think Bokoen streamed something about it at some point. But yeah, the naval movement speed was absolutely just vile, and it still is. I would be totally happy to reduce speeds across the board on pretty much everything. But yeah, these complaints, they're still here. They've always been here. They've slowed it down. They need to slow it down more. In general, the design idea for ships is to move at historical speeds around the map. It's just not feasible, in my opinion. Patrol the Sea's naval objective will also try to keep ships at port if there is normal or severe winter in the sea. Okay, I like that. That's nice. Give us an option to go home, back to port during war. Like, have that as a toggle for us as well. Pretty please. That would be nice. Game speeds are not ideal for multiplayer. Yep. Particularly, Speed 3 feels too slow. Speed 4 feels too fast while playing. This is true. They're working on a system for 1.1 to have 7 different game speeds, with a speed halfway between 3 and 4, and make 2 slower, and another one between 2 and 3. That's wild. Okay. That's fun. Alright. What do you mean we're not gonna have a 5 speed is just, it's just not a thing. I guess it's a good thing that the Speed 5 competition is dead, because they'd have to change the name to Speed 7, which doesn't sound as good. Anyway, the setup in China. A lot of feedback about the setup in China, particularly around cultures and harbor setup, and they're doing an overhaul there for the 1.1 update. I will say there is another issue that I personally have with China, and that is that it's too frickin' easy. I played, like I say, I have a stream going on at the moment, a campaign going on where I started as Yuan. I'm now Ming. I'm going for the achievement Huangdi. I think I'm missing a letter there. I'm going for that achievement, and I would have streamed last night as well, but again, I'm a little bit sick right now. And having like minus 98% conquer cost when was wild. Yuan having a maximum of like 20k levies at any point during the campaign compared to the 120k that Ming starts with is actually insane. I think China just needs a whole, just like, in the bin, start again. I don't think it's functional. Like, there is no way you can win as Yuan, right? Ming starts with 120k troops. They very quickly get up to 150, 200, 300k. And the AI is just not able to compete. And it's not just Ming, right? Wu. If you play as Wu, you win. If you play as Qing, you win. If you play as Chen, you win. Like, it doesn't matter. It's far too easy to unify China. It's far, far too easy. And I know Ming did it in 20 years, but I don't care. It's not great. It's not fun. I don't know. That needs looking at, I think. Anyway, now you're saying, why is this not already in a patch coming to us? Well, they'll explain in the post later the holidays about how the process works on developing things, and how things work for them, and how it gets adapted to what we want as well. They're also going to be doing a detailed roadmap for what they're doing in 1.1 soon. Looking forward to that. And then what we think is the huge pain points at the moment. Alright, well, I appreciate this thread. I'm going to click refresh again, see if a couple of those have been edited. I don't think they have been. Yeah, there's been no edits yet. Okay. I think I'm glad that they've done this. It's one of the things that a lot of people have been complaining about is the lack of communication, and I think this is exactly the kind of communication that is good. There has been a lot of, let's say, accusations that Paradox doesn't know where they want to bring the game. The vision is blurry, and they're just throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks. And that's mostly down to the levies, mercenaries, regulars. Although mercenaries is not something that many people have complained about that I've seen in comparative to the levies versus regulars balance. But I think this kind of communication kind of shows that they are thinking about the things that they're putting into the game. The balance patches aren't just throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. They are, they're thought out. And now we're kind of seeing the thought process behind some of that. I appreciate that. what my main pain point is, what is my maximum pain point right now is definitely levies versus regulars. I think the AI, I don't know, if levies get better, then obviously my thoughts on what the AI does with their armies is not as relevant. I think right now countries use levies in the early game, and that's fine. The early game AI is fine. They're raising their levies to fight, and that makes sense, because so am I as the player. As soon as I manage to get like a full stack of regulars, though, I stop using levies completely, because it's just a bad thing to do. And the design intent, I feel, should be to use both, and then eventually... I don't even think eventually scale them back to not being used at all. Because I feel like as soon as you get into like the Napoleonic Wars, you're probably wanting to raise all of the levies, and I don't know. It should go in like a big old graph curve thing where you use all of the levies and then you sort of tail them off, and you tail them off until you don't use them at all, and then they come back again. That kind of way probably seems like the best way to go about things. Maybe in the last era you can, buff levies significantly. All of those, the age debuffs that they get, that could all go away, and then levies can fight at like 90% the power of regulars in the final age, maybe. But that makes regulars just not worth building because they're mad expensive. I don't know. I don't know where I want the balance to be. I really don't, and I do not envy the devs at this task, because I don't know. I don't know where it wants to be. I think CK3's balance between their levied troops and their what do they call them, men at arms, is atrocious, and we should obviously not want that. That doesn't work at all. And I think even current EU5 is better for balance than that. But definitely there needs to be some work going into it, and obviously they are going to put some work into it. So we'll see what it does. We'll see what it does. I don't know. I'd like to hear your thoughts though. I'm getting a headache. I've had one the whole time, but it's getting worse. So I'm going to end this video now. Hope you guys, if I don't have another video before Christmas, which is in like 2 days or 3 days, depending on where you are in the world, or not at all, depending on where you are in the world, I guess. I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas, happy holidays, all that good stuff. Whether you celebrate it religiously or secularly, I hope you have a great time. I hope you have a fantastic few days, and I will see you guys. I will see you guys later. I'll see you guys after the break, or maybe before that. If there's another post, I'll make a post on it. I don't know. I'm sick. I'm not going to work. Anyway, toodaloo. Bye bye. Merry Christmas. Toodaloo. Well, where's my button for ending? There it is.